PR Connections Radio presents.
Hey, business owners. Want to get your brand in front of thousands of locals in Vegas without blowing your budget on overpriced ads? Ready to boost your visibility? Use promo code PRTalk for an exclusive offer. Click the link in the description or contact 702-445-9488 to talk to our experts today. Vegas is watching. Make sure they see you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, hello there. Gosh, I just want to thank you,
thank you
for coming on here and joining me with Evelyn's Roundtable and the subject tonight, and it's dear to both of us, I believe, is the challenges that do happen with Black women veterans in Nevada, because we have a lot. There's a lot. There's housing, there's job training, how we're treated in the military, outside the military, and what's happening now here in Vegas, and what's not happening, right? So we're going to hit on everything, everybody, tonight. And I just want to thank everybody for coming on here. And thank you, Dana. I want to say thank you to her because she's very good, very, very well with her job. So I want to start off saying thank you to her for everything. So Shaquilla, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. But first, thank you, Evelyn, for having me here, for inviting me and always giving me a space. And thank you, Dana, for allowing us to continue to share our voices and our experiences on this platform. My name is Shaquilla Eilets. I've been living here in Nevada for a little bit over 8 years now, originally from New York City. And I spent a good chunk of my 20s in the military. I was in the United States Army Reserves from 2007 to 2016.
Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah.
Yes. And I must say that it in hindsight, it was an enriching experience, but not in the stereotypical happy-go-lucky kind of cinematic version that so many of us like to, imagine. It came with its challenges, more challenges than I would have liked to have. A lot of experience in just understanding who I am or who I was at that time as a person. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again, but I would have made different choices because, like I said, in hindsight, older, have more experience, traveled, met more people, and specifically more women veterans, I would have been able to make better decisions for my career, which was kind of cut short due to the isms that saturate the military, the sexism, the racism, just the marginalization of women and Black women in particular. So it's been a journey. I continue to take that journey as far as letting go, but not in a way that stops me from holding people accountable and holding institutions accountable. But it's still really painful to think about going through what I went through when I didn't have to. Some people say, oh, sometimes we have to go through. No, it's not that we have to. It's just that people in certain positions want you to remain marginalized or remain in a box so that they can continue to control you or to control the image of you. And they determine our positions. So it's not necessarily that we have to go through. It's just that other people have certain positions that force us into those choices. So that's a little wee bit.
That is so true, and some of it are called being gatekeepers and the barrier people, and just thinking that certain people should be in that space and not be in a different space, because empowerment for them, right? The power that they're feeling. So it makes them feel better when they do the things that they do.
Absolutely.
And
power, sorry to interrupt. Power is endogenous to us as human beings, but also power comes from numbers. So when you have a person who has a certain ideology, let's say in the military, because we know there's a culture in the military, and you have support for that one person, then they're allowed to reign over all, whether it's negative, positive, or in between. But when you have one person or a few people individually who are trying desperately to advocate for what's right and for what's benefit to them, then their power pales in comparison to those who have the larger numbers. And so even though we have within us our own individual power, we still need others like us who, experience similar things so that we can fight together. Because me versus 100 individuals, it's not going to turn out well for me. But if it's a more balanced number, then I might have a chance, and the person next to me might have a better chance. But by ourselves, it's really hard.
yes, and that's true. That's true. And then too, I think when we are lower number, and that's when we reach out and cling on to those that are going through the same experience or want to join in the fight, right? Because we know, like you said, going single is yeah, that's a whole, you already know, well, I'm gonna get defeated, right? Oh, here we go. But I mean, it really doesn't stop women like me and you, because we still will go at it head on, and then when we hit that wall, then we go, okay, all right, now I need to go back, and get some other people and go at it again, right? And so and then it hits on another subject of how are you feeling, or what do you think I should say, about what's happening here in the state of Nevada as far as the challenges that veterans, and I'm just going to keep it real, Black veteran women are going through, because we got a few subjects, right? Housing, for one, that's on the top of my list right now, that we are going through as veteran women. So what are your takes on that?
Well, I think, I'm not sure if I shared last time, but I do think that we had this conversation, you and I, when I first got here to Nevada. And this was a few months after I ETS. So I ETS'd in August of 2016. And
what's ETS? People don't remember.
ETS, yeah, that's when you separate from the military, and of course it was honorable conditions. So I had just came from New York in March of 2017. So this was only a few months later, less than a year. And I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have any resources. I didn't know anyone. So I went to a few places. The first place I went to was the VA, and they turned me away 3 times in that year for help. They didn't do anything for me. One gentleman told me, "Oh, you're not a veteran. I mean, you are a veteran, but you're not a veteran." And he sent me on my way. And for each time you're in a battle, that blow weakens you a little bit more. And so I didn't have that. And I went to, well, I didn't went to, I called US vets, and they said, "Oh, there's nothing we can do for you because I didn't have active duty time, or I didn't have enough active duty time." And so now I was faced with, where do I go? Okay, where do I go? Um, and so I spent maybe a few days at a Motel 6 on Tropicana off the Boulevard Strip. And then I spent 2 weeks in a foreclosed house that I didn't know was foreclosed. It was just a few of us living there. And then one day the lights went out, and we was like, okay. And then the next day they was like, "Oh, we got to be out by tomorrow." I was like, okay. And then I spent um, the next month sleeping on the floor in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 guys. It was nothing. It was nothing crazy. Don't worry about it. Just they were smoking a lot, and playing video games. But that was the first month, and then after that, it was either 1 or 2 months after that, the guy said, "Oh, you guys got to pay more rent or leave." And I was like, first of all, this is 1 bedroom. It was down on 13th Street off of Bonanza, and between 10th or 13th Street on Bonanza. And I know the rent wasn't crazy. You know what I mean? Because it's that area. And we were paying $300 each of us. So it was me, 2 other guys, and then the owner. And so that's $900. That was your rent in 2017, you know? And so he wanted us to pay more. And at the time, of course, I didn't have money to pay more because I wasn't making that kind of money. And I tried to go to the VA again. This was around the second time. And they turned me away again. They didn't offer me any resources. They didn't give me anybody's number. They just said, "Kick rocks. Thank you for your service. Have a nice day." And so I wind up going to a shelter for 2 months, between 2 and 3 months. And that was the shelter down Owens and Las Vegas Boulevard, which is the Shade Tree. And so I was there for a couple of months while I was going through the teaching program at the New Teacher Project, which they recently closed due to this administration budget cuts. But while I was doing that teaching program and doing the pre-service trainer, I was in the shelter. I was sleeping in the shelter, and that's the kind of experience I had. So when we talk about, and I'm not the typical veteran, what people think as a typical veteran. I'm not a white male. I'm not heterosexual. I'm not this chiseled image, masculine image. I'm a Black female from New York. Okay, so even though I took an oath during a time of war because I volunteered in 2007 to actually put my life on the line when I eat, whether I'm in the reserves, whether I have active duty time or not, I still took that oath during a time of war, which is something that used to garner some basic level of respect. But when I came out here, that's not what I got. And so I try to tell people, no one can really tell me anything because you don't know what I had to go through in order to get where I'm at now. But you look
Right.
at some of these other veterans who, like I said, white, male, heterosexual, and they want to give you a salute. They want to say, oh, thank you for all these things. And there's so many other kind of veterans out there whose stories are not being told and who are not acknowledged.
Yes, I really agree with you on the respect part, because I'm like totally confused on how we're treated and the disrespect. And that is the question, though, is I've served, yes. And then I asked, have you served? And I'm not saying that it's not good that a family member or in your family that served, but when you get disrespected, then you're asked, did you serve? And oh, my grandfather served, or and then you're like, wow, so this is how you treat them, this is how you talk to them, and I think it's really, to me, it's really messed up that it happens like that. And just like you said, I laid my life on the line for you to even talk out here, for you to walk around, for you to not be, because what's going on over there in Israel, Iran, Ukraine, Russia, it's something, and to be in a war-stricken country like that. And so it's like, wow, I did this for you. And you're like, oh, whatever. But it's more than that, because it is more than a whatever, like you said, and it's been challenges too, because I'm a part of American Legion, you're a part of the American Legion, and that's different from being part of the VFW,
Right.
those that have been in war, because I haven't went to war. I've been stateside, and people seem to, even those who've been in military, kind of have a little problem with that sometimes if you haven't went to war. And that's probably why I really didn't even think about it no more when I got out of there, because if I didn't go to war, then I'm like, okay, what's that? But it doesn't matter. I signed that contract.
Well, it's, when we go back to the military culture, which we know is steeped in racism and white male patriarchy, that is the story of America. The culture of the military is white male dominancy, right? And so part of the way they, I guess, bond in their toxicity is how much harm have you caused the enemy, right? And the enemy is whoever we happen to be in conflict with at the time. And so if you don't follow that narrative of or anybody who's our enemy is evil, and if we do more harm to them, then we are raised up, on a pedestal. If you don't follow that, then you somehow become aligned with the enemy, because you're not down with that type of mentality. Now, when you are in theater, when you go over in a war zone, I can't speak to that experience because I haven't been there. But at the same time, we wear the same uniform,
Yes.
right? At the same time, we train together. I don't make the decision whether my unit goes or I go with another unit to go, be activated. So it shouldn't be perpetuated, that kind of attitude. But it's something that makes certain individuals feel good. And when you're in a group and then you have that group mentality, others fall into that, because it's like, if you don't fall into that, it's this division, those who were activated in a war zone and those who were not. So it becomes this division. And so if you're not on this side, where you are a veteran of foreign wars, then you're on this side. And so then it becomes, all right, but we wear the same uniform.
Yes.
And what they do is, or what some people do, is they use the uniform when it's convenient for
Yes.
them. Okay, when it's convenient for whatever agenda they're pushing at that time. So when they need something or they want unit cohesion, they say, "Oh, we all wear the same uniform. We all have one mission. This is what we swore oath for. We're defending the Constitution." But when we're just amongst ourselves and we're not, putting on a performance for the battalion commander or, any visitors, then it's like,
Town hall.
be quiet, because you don't know what you're talking about. You're over there. Go over there somewhere. And those who served in foreign wars going to follow that because they don't want to be the other. They don't want to be classified as the other. So we have to be cognizant that this is something that when people are in the military, they're perpetuated. And then when they come out, it hasn't gone away because the people on the outside have no idea what's going on in these installations.
No, I totally agree with you. And I really agree with you because I see that a lot. I do. It's look at me. I got this shiny this. Look at me. But what have you done? What have you been doing? Have you passed any bills that helps the veteran community? Because just to stand on that soapbox and say, yeah, I did this and I did that, but then your track record, I don't see anything back there. Or to be a civilian and be on veteran committees and I still don't see you been doing anything. And then you're disrespectful on top of it. And or you're an assembly or senator and you're in an area like US Vets or Salvation Army or Goodwill. And how many times have you went to any of those places? Those are the questions that I have. Because everybody know 2026 is coming, and we just had and I'm gonna say it, a horseshit legislation 83rd that just happened. And those are going to be my questions because we've been out of legislation for a couple weeks almost, and I have not been seeing any town halls out here about what we're going to do for the people and how the people, for the people, by the people, and it's really ridiculous. Because you set up there in that legislation and 83rd legislation and all this and all that. And so I'm like, okay, what are you going to do now though? You did what you did there, but there's things that need to be done, So, and what about the complaints that have been made through those 3 places that I just said? And do you even know about the complaints? Do you even care? I want to see all of that. I want to see the data how many complaints have been made? What did you do about it? I want to know, because I don't want to hear, oh, I didn't know about, but wait a minute. You are an assembly or a senator, city council, or mayor, all of that. Why do you not know? And how many times have you visited those locations?
Well, all of these places, any place that deals with human beings, period, that runs on our tax dollars especially, should have some kind of oversight, okay? And these places, these nonprofit organizations or for-profit organizations need oversight. And I think part of it is the narrative that has been, popular, and that's coming straight from the White House, because the person in the White House doesn't respect veterans. Okay, the person in the White House doesn't respect military protocol or know anything about, rules of engagement or how do we connect with veterans or service people. He doesn't, and the people who serving under him don't. So it seemed like from the time he started his camp, really probably from the first time he ran, the perspective for the military and veterans have been going down, kind of, because you got this person who represents racism, misogyny, hatred, xenophobia. You have this person at the highest office in the land who has this attitude towards veterans, and so many of the veterans voted for him. How many of us have, who may not have served, but have veterans in our family voted for him, right? So you see this guy take an office that has this attitude towards military personnel and service members. And so then you see kind of like the accolades for the military going downhill, right? Because he's a reflection of that. And so then you have local government agencies. Well, they're not going to feel any more inclined to service the veteran community or service women in a way that benefits them, because they see that the person at the highest office in the land is indifferent about it. And so if they haven't served themselves, what motivation do they have to make sure that we are taken care of? What motivation do they have? What investments do they have, because they didn't serve and they're not in those places, right? So they're only going to put up a facade as much as it gets them votes and as it gets them, closer to their political aspirations. But they're not really going to be held accountable or hold other organizations accountable, because they just don't care. And that's really what it comes down to. It's either you care or you don't care. It's either you're for us or you're against us. There cannot be any straddling of the fences.
No, and I really wasn't okay with the parade thing. I didn't like that. And you could, even though I went in on there, come off, went on, you could see that it wasn't what it was supposed to be, because you can see people were just like doing the motion, let's get doing it. And then even those that are in the crowd were the reason why they're there, because the anniversary, but it was for the anniversary. It was not for the birthday or any of that. It's because they were military themselves. I just,
excuse me, sorry,
bless you. I just don't. Military is not supposed to be used like that. We are not a toy or anything like that. It's not your own private people. That I. That's the part.
The people, and this is again, that's the word for myself. My buzzword for 2025. It's accountability. And I have to go back to that, because when you have a person who is going against the Constitution, who's breaking laws left and right, who is, removing people from key positions, key military positions that is the defense of our country and oversees our alliances. When you have this person who's making a mockery of everything, I mean, America was never great, but it wasn't like this bad. There was some sort of performance that precipitated a decent, position in the world. And so, because he represents the ideal of so many people who voted for him, they're not going to hold him accountable. They're going to make excuses for him, right? They're going to say, oh, he has the right to do this, and let's just go along with it, because it's about their racist agenda, right? It's about what he represents. It's about what he said he was going to do and what he indeed has accomplished over the how many days now, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, he started right out the box. And so when it comes to that parade, we're in a sad place. We're in a sad place. The elected officials are not doing what they were elected to do, right? And on the upside, you have the protests and the demonstrations that are saying, no, we're not going to stand for this, right? We're not going to stand for you plunging the country into a eternal abyss of damnation, right? So there is opposition, but the opposition is mostly coming from the people. But the elected officials should be on the side of the people as well. And did you see there were the protests this past weekend, and there's ongoing protests daily, because we are showing that we the people means all of us. And so we have to stand firm, and we have to continue to hold these people in office accountable for the lawlessness that's going on.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before, is that so everyone's back from legislation, and it's time, your donors, it seems like that's what's going on. If you don't have sponsorship money, or you're not a donor, it seems like you don't have a voice here in the state of Nevada. And that's not how that works. Like you just said, we are the ones that vote you in, and you should be doing things to help the community. And that goes with my bill that I did, AB 222, and that was to get data. It was a data bill to get data to help women and veterans and find out why they're not applying, or those that are applying, to see what was going on. And to me, didn't get any support from the person that that I gave the bill to in the legislation that was up there. It was just a data bill. That's all it was. And it just didn't seem like, and then too, think about it. I'm a Black veteran woman. And so I'm like, okay, not to say that it's supposed to pass and it's supposed to that because of that. But the point is, we do need data. We do need that. It's not like I said, hey, I'm doing a bill to see how many, and this might not sound right, but tampons in the tampon boxes, this was actually about something, and it didn't even get to get a vote, even in the government affairs. It didn't even get a vote there. And I just was very surprised at that. And then there's all these women up in legislation, and okay, but you're not passing women bills that can help in that area. So how is that helping, right? And back to the housing, there's not many places for housing for veteran women. There's not. And what's going on with that? And not to say that we don't need mental health housing, but wow, you're doing a facility for 900 beds for mental health. I'm like, okay, what about us?
So are you going to name the facility?
What is that? Something for Hope. What is that? Something for Hope. They're doing the 900 bids right now.
And it's for service members.
No, well, I'm sure they'll be able to go, but it's mainly for those that what did it say it was for? It's for couples, singles, people that have pets, mental health, but there was no mention of veterans on their space or anything like that. And it's only 900 bids. And I was like, that doing this right here, and it's on, and actually the community is bringing the city, I believe, or the state to court. I mean, when you really think about 900 bids is not a lot if you got all those different areas, right? So you're going to have area for couples. You're going to have an area for singles. You're going to have an area for those with pets. You're going to have an area for, you know what I mean? So once you start doing that, 900 does not seem like a lot at that point. It just doesn't. And I told them, I said, you're like a pebble in the pond. I said, I'm not saying what you're doing is this, but you're still only a pebble in the pound to do 900 bids, right? And we need more than that.
Well, there's a lot of space in this state, and even in Southern Nevada. So, what is the elected officials again doing about the addressing the needs of those who need housing, who needs mental health services, who may be food insecure, right? We have to shift we have to shift the view back to them, but we also have to take accountability for ourselves, because I mean, I live right up the block from where I used to stay in the shelter, and it has become, over the years since 2017, it's just become more and more overwhelmingly just out of hand with the amount of houseless people just roaming that area between North Las Vegas Boulevard, Main Street, Owens, right there. And I mean, it's just hundreds of people. And during the summer, that's brutal. During the hot weather, it's just brutal. Sometimes they sleep underneath the overpass on the concrete. I mean, dangerous to say the least. They line up the blocks, just hundreds of people just crowded together, leaning on the gate on either side of Owens, and then you have the middle part where usually it's just like a divider or something. They sleep there. They have their tents, their sleeping bags, they have their shopping carts, and they go from one side of the street to the other side of the street all day long. And I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, they sleep along the side of the cemetery down there, and they're just uh, it's just. I took my family.
It's bad because they're being shifted, right? So the city will come in and say, "Hey, you got to move over here." Then the county will come in and say, "Oh, you got to move over there," and then they're shutting down the tunnels. Not to say that no one should be living in the tunnel. First of all, no one should be living in a tunnel.
But where else will they go?
And that's the other part. And then you say, "Oh well, they can get a place." Well, I think you got to think about the mental part of this. If you've been out here on these living in the tunnels or however you've been living for years, that's kind of hard to adapt to being in a place. Because I hear it all the time. Well, I got an apartment and it's weird, and I still sleep on the floor sometimes because I'm comfortable with it. I mean, there's a lot that's going on. It's just not a one fix. It's a jobs, it's housing, it's safety, it's mental health, and it's like we got to do everything. You can't just do one thing and think, "Oh, but just do one thing is going to fix it." And really, honestly, how well is legislation working? Because every other year is not working, right? And I think the commissioners could do a lot too, because I heard that out of the mouth of one commissioner that, well, we can do this and we can do that, and legislation is not really doing what they need to do. So I'm thinking that was interesting, right? For a commissioner to say that. So,
my question is, with all the money that comes into Clark County and all the money that Nevada makes, where is this money going? Where is this money going?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to education.
Nope. We know that. We're what, 47 now?
We're in the high 40s, basically the bottom.
We're 47.
Education. It's not going to housing. It's not going to housing. It's not going to health, mental health outreach. It's not going there. It's not going to addressing all these abandoned properties or downtrodden properties that are scattered across the city. It's not going to addressing police abuse and police brutality within these police departments who go through our neighborhoods. So, out of all the things that this monies that the state makes, that this county makes, that is not going to in a way that we see a visible positive impact. Where's this money going to? Where are our tax dollars going to?
Yeah.
Where's all this funding going to? And so we have to ask those questions because they demand immediate answers. And in a state that has so many firsts and so many opportunities, the people are struggling.
And that strip that's making, and they brag about, oh, we made so many million this month. Oh, we were short like a few thousand. I'm thinking, wow, you're telling us how many millions each hotel casino is making. And like you said, right? What is really going, even the VA, the women's ward. Why we don't have a women's clinic out there? And I didn't even think about it. Somebody said this. We don't even have an emergency unit out there at the VA.
Well, it goes. You can look at how the society values women and children, and then you can look at the quality of life or the lack thereof. And when you look at the quality of life in Clark County or in Southern Nevada, it's not high. It's not high. And then you look at how women are treated and the lack thereof women's services, and you look at the education system, and it tells a glaring story about how we are valued. So if you don't value certain members of your society, then your society or your city, whatever you want to call it, is not going to thrive.
No.
Now it might survive just barely above the water, but it's not going to thrive. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are, on the streets or, at the fringes of society. You're going to continue to see these huge disparities because, we're not seen as an asset to this state. We're not an asset. We're a liability.
Yeah. It's almost like, well, it is. Is that strip is just the focus, period. It's like they forgot that people actually live outside that strip. We have to go to work. We have houses. We got buildings. And even with the construction part of it, it's like they just forgot, like, wait a minute. There's houses. There's other things being built around here. We should be going after that work to help. And we need to be going after those that are coming out of the service too. Why are we not going after that? And because to me, I think if you hire somebody that's been in military, at least, I know you're going to show up on time. You're going to go to work. Most of us do, right? That we do like we did in the military, show up on time, we'd be there. So you would think that would be something that you would be going after. And I don't see a lot of that happening either. It's just like, oh, the strip, that's it. Go work on the strip. Or, like I say, either you work on the strip or you're a stripper. That seems like what they're doing to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, well, wait a minute. We do more than that. We females can do more than, I'm just like, come on. So I think they got things wrong, real wrong here.
Well, we should have learned from the COVID situation when they had to shut down all of these cities, and particularly here. So many businesses just fell flat during COVID, and they were never able to recover. And what is that? That's loss of jobs. That's loss of industry, right? That's loss of capital going into the city. So many businesses, in the failure of them to, I guess, see through COVID, that impacted the community, right?
Big time.
But what was still able to come and sustain and be up is the casinos. the Strip, right? Or businesses that were nearby. And like you said, there's other industries, there's other businesses. We have a lot of nonprofit organizations that could be using, that attention. Everybody don't live on Tropicana or Flamingo or go to work there, right? We have banks or financial institutions, we have eateries,
Schools.
schools. Yeah, absolutely. We have educational institutions, including the higher educational institutions for our
Yeah.
colleges and universities.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there is a very important part if you want to educate our citizens and give them options for, either building the city or traveling if they decide to come back. But there's so many options that we could be using right now that would enrich the lives of those of us who live here and not just cater to travel and tourism.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Because
and there's nothing wrong if you want to be a stripper. I mean, that's what you want to do. Is what you want to do. But like you just said, there's more going on here. These are families. We're people, and
absolutely.
and I'm not saying, oh, we need to have a 8-bedroom. Most people just want a safe place to lay their head. A decent house or a decent apartment, a decent car, and they're happy. Be tax-paying citizen. And yeah, think about it. We are tax-paying citizens, like you said earlier. So why do we not have these things? We're paying taxes. We
Absolutely.
should be able to be part of all these things in the state of Nevada. It's so interesting how this is working out and how this is happening. But we're closing in on time here, and I'm glad you came on, and I'm grateful for you. And is there any last words that you have, or anything that you think about that you want to hit on or touch that we didn't?
I would just reiterate as far as what it means to be a veteran, a person who has served honorably, and even those those of us who may have medical discharge from the military or been other than honorable and these other sort of designations. We served, and we may not always know the stories. We may not always know how the person got there, but when we look at the diversity of those of us who served, we don't all look like Sylvester Stallone and Rambo. Nope. We don't all subscribe to the same ideologies or like the same things. We don't all have a generic singular life experience. And so just as much diversity and multifaceted nature that we live in as human beings across the world, that's how much diversity you have within the military. And I say we keep that uniqueness, and we keep that heterogeneity so that we can continue to thrive in who we are.
No, I totally agree with you. I think everyone should go into the military. I do. I think everyone, like other countries, I do a mandate of 2 years. I think we should be doing that here. I think it would help our youth to do that. More leaders, more active things happening in the United States. That's my belief, that we should be doing that. And those out there that think they're not a veteran, like we just said, you put that uniform on, you sign on that dotted line, and you're a veteran, and you deserve to file your claims from being in the military too. That's another thing that we all overlook, right? Our claims to file. And I'm hearing now, before you get out, you can sign up for your claim now. They're doing it different now, which is good because
wow.
Look, I was like, wow, I wish they would have doing that when I came through there. And
absolutely.
I just want to, Nevada Women in Trades also want to tell everybody about that. We have a class coming up in October, and please go on our website and check out what we're doing. And also you can select the button for more information, and it'll bring you directly to info@Nevada Wit. And like I said, go on the website, see what Nevada Women in Trades. If you're interested in getting into any of these unions, pre-apprenticeship is what we are. And so I just think that there needs to be a little bit more respect for those that have served. And it's not always cool to say, oh, thank you for your service, because sometimes we can see that you're full of shit when you say it. All right, let's put that out there too. So, or like you said, those that have served and also out there honking the horn and doing this because of what they're getting from, and that's not cool either. If you serve, stand by that, right? You want to run for office and you're a veteran, stand by that. Do not hide from that. Period. So those are my last words. And I still think that Goodwill, Salvation Army, and U.S. vets need to step up and do a better job with helping veterans. Because when you start turning to being corporate, that changes everything when you start doing that, right? So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
For being on here. Can't wait to have you again. Oh yeah. And we're part of Nevada Veterans Caucus, and we're going to be doing candidate forums, and I'm so excited for that. So if you're going to run for something, you need to get a hold of Nevada Veteran Caucus because we have a candidate forum that we're handing out because you can be endorsed by Nevada Veteran Caucus. And again, thank you all for listening every first and third Wednesday at 7 p.m. Evelyn's Roundtable, and guaranteed to be talking about something that you don't know about or want to know more about, right? So again, our mission statement is to empower all women, everybody, to empower all women to hold hands as we rise. And that's what we'll be doing, Queens.
This podcast is brought to you by NVisionU. NVisionU has discovered how to impact spirit, body, and soul with spray technology in just 30 seconds. With NVisionU, you can achieve optimal health and start living the life you have always dreamed of. Use the promo code NVisionU.com/VernDix to take control of your health naturally. PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.